Come on. I won't have no peace of mind unless you're right here by my side. I don't want you on my mind, but you.
Welcome to Unsigned Hype episode 33. On this episode, I have the pleasure to talk to the incredible artist B from New York. Prior to our interview, I asked B which song they would play for someone that wasn't familiar with their music yet. B chose their song PDA, and if you're not familiar with B's music yet, here's a snippet of that song before we jump into the interview.
And I won't have no peace of mind unless you're right here by my side. I don't want nobody else but you. Putting the spreads of affection. Look at my face when I say this. To the end of time, it's just me and you. The two of us, yeah. So if you return my love on display for everyone, I could take you to the top. So if you return my love, I can make it with you.
This is Unsigned Hype. The song you just heard is called PDA by B, who's joining me from New York today. It's an absolute pleasure to welcome you to the show. B, why is PDA the song that you would play for someone that has never heard your music before?
Yeah, thank you for having me. I don't know. I'd say PDA is like, it really, I think, showcases what I'm doing for this upcoming stuff that I'm releasing. And I feel like, you know, that first moment of that song is really meant to grab your attention and to kind of bring you into what I'm kind of trying to create with this tape that I'm working on right now. So it kind of is meant to bring you into this space sonically and even visually. I mean, we dropped some visuals with this recently. And, you know, it's just kind of, it sets the tone for everything. That's the whole point of the song, you know.
Can you talk to me a little bit about what it is exactly, or how you would describe to your listeners what it is that you're doing differently right now?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like my music up to this point really exists in kind of like an alternative R&B space. I like to market it as pop, even though I don't even really consider it pop. But I feel like what I'm doing now is intentionally kind of pushing the sound that I've already got more into that pop space. And like, it's calling on, you know, sounds from the 2000s. I get a lot of JT comparisons, even though he's not somebody that I really draw a lot of inspiration from when I'm making the beats, at least in the music, definitely in the singing a little bit. But, you know, I'm grabbing sounds from the 2000s. I'm grabbing sounds from the 90s. I'm grabbing sounds from now. And then obviously I have like a whole, I have all the sounds and libraries that I've built personally for my artist project and for like producing for other people and all that. So I feel like that all is kind of coming together. And I don't know if I'm changing too much, but I feel like I'm kind of trying to push the envelope a little bit forward with my new stuff.
But when you say moving into a more of a pop direction, is that because that's where your personal music taste leans more towards? Or is that because you feel like we're in a musical time right now where more pop music is needed or a new approach to pop is needed?
No, I mean, I genuinely is just what I like making right now. Yeah. And it's what I like listening to. And I have like a whole little playlist on my phone that I'm going to drop when the whole project comes out. And it, you know, I feel like people will see that and they'll be like, oh, okay, that makes a lot of sense actually. But I think pop is, it's just where I want to be right now, you know, musically. I think that also comes with the warmer months. Like I find myself making more dancey stuff when I'm, you know, feeling good, when the seasonal depression isn't hitting, you know, the sun goes away in New York again. And I'm like, okay, it's time to make some more sad R&B stuff. So,
I mean, your music is actually quite uplifting. You know, I got so nostalgic discovering your music because, you know, obviously Neptune's references, obviously JT references. What is it about that era, this 2000 era, that you like so much, that you want to bring back?
Yeah, I think it's not necessarily that I even want to bring it back. And I am almost kind of mad that it's like it's having its resurgence with other people now in the same way. But I really just have always like, that's when I was born. That's when I started listening to music for the first time. That's like, but that era is like, there was so much experimentation and there was so much or so little like regard for the way that people were doing stuff before, or the traditional rules or like approaches to music. And I think like Timbaland is a really good example. You know, he started just doing stuff with samples and programming and stuff that people just weren't doing up to that point. Or even like, you know, taking the stuff that people had done up to that point and kind of putting his own interesting take on it. And yeah, I feel like it's that creative spirit that I really like, and I really always find myself coming back to. Even like in what I listen to day to day is like a lot of older stuff. Like it's a lot of 2006 to like 8. And you know, I'm finding myself like, it's one of those things, the more you listen to it, the more you kind of get pushed in a weird niche direction. And like the same thing kind of happens with me with like time periods and sound time periods. So I started like early 2000s, and now I'm getting pushed to like 2006 through 8. And then, you know, there's a bit more like 2010 stuff that's kind of finding its way into my playlist again. You know, it just kind of, everything comes in cycles. So I feel like that speaks to that.
Yeah, two interesting things that you said. You know, the thing that I just remember, you mentioning you being mad. I mean, I know that you probably don't mean like really mad, but you feeling like this resurgence of this pop music. Can you elaborate a little bit on that? Like, what is it? Is it people just like kind of like copying the style now? Is that how would you describe that?
I think, well, it ties back into the creativity thing. Like, I feel like a lot of people want to do that sound right now, but I don't think a lot of people get the essence of that sound. Like, they say, oh, it's the same way that a lot of people hear what I'm doing. They're like, oh, you're obviously trying to rip Pharrell, or like, you know, I've got people saying that, but I'm like, I'm using the same synth as Pharrell did a lot, and Chad used a lot in like their really early stuff, and he kept using his whole career. But like, I'm using the same sounds. That's on purpose. It's because I am taking that thing and I'm trying to find my own way to experiment with it and put it into stuff. But I think a lot of people say, I'm going to take that synth and that's the whole thing. Like, I'm done there. There's no more creativity or experimentation that goes into it. And I just feel like a lot of people are missing that when they're tackling that sound.
Would it be too complex to describe? Because I do, you know, as a listener, I can hear what you say. Like, I can hear you adding a twist, a bit of a more modern approach to that kind of production style. Is there any way for you to put that into words, like maybe based on an example of what you do differently, like how you would approach a song to not make it sound like a direct copy of something that, you know, was produced by someone else or sung by someone else? Yeah,
well, I think on the production side, at least, because, you know, singing is definitely a newer thing for me. I'm doing it because it just, you know, that's how I get the songs that I want to make. But on the production side, at least, I think specifically, like, I think the Pharrell 4-count is a big thing. Like, people, they'll always throw that in there, or they'll try and incorporate that in some way. Yeah, when they're doing the 2000s sound, they'll always be like, it'll hit the dun, dun, dun,
really?
Dun,
okay.
Dun, dun. But I think, like, I've intentionally tried to never do that. And a lot of the stuff on this project, I'm kind of really playing with the intros and how each song kind of goes into the next one. And that's like one small thing. But I mean, on like a broader scale, I think it's just taking that sound and those sounds, like the Triton, but I'm trying to incorporate more like stuff that I'm making myself, like synths that I'm sound designing myself, you know, sampling my own voice, even, you know, getting friends to come in and help me write stuff, just so I can kind of get out of that, like, my ear. And I work with a lot of people that do more like, they're kind of on like the plug side of things, like some plug and be, you know, more in the hip hop space than in the R&B space. And I do think that comes across in the writing sometimes. So
I mean, looking at your kind of your journey, you also come from a heavy hip hop space, I would say. I mean, you started producing songs. You were a producer initially, and the beats that I came across, I mean, you've always been musical. I think back in the day you played the trumpet or something similar 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah, I literally have it. I
Cool.
have it right here. But.
Yeah, and I mean, you started really producing, and then you mentioned that the singing part came a bit later. Can you talk to me a little bit about that time that you experimented with your music for the first time, discovering your voice kind of as a new instrument? I know that you started putting out first covers. I mean, there was a Jack Stauber's instrument cover that you sang, which I think was like 5 years ago, like the first approach of like singing a little bit, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think I am a music teacher like during the day right now. So, but I what I tell people a lot is like, and this when I went to school, like a lot of what we did was like, you learn by copying other people, not by like taking influence from other people. Like that's how you learn to speak, is you're copying your parents, and then you pick up what they are doing by copying it, and then it becomes your own by doing it over and over and over again. And like I've found that that's been my approach to singing. That's been my approach to production. Like, is taking things that I really like and that I'm really passionate about, reverse engineering them, and then going from there. And like that's got me the way that I sing. That's got me the way that I produce. And I've taken little bits of everything that has influenced me over time and like turn those into my own sound, or am in the process of turning those into my own sound.
But what made you, it seems to me like there was this really clear switch. I mean, you still produce obviously, but the singing thing came way later and became like, it's a staple of yours. I mean, you're a singer, songwriter, producer now. Was there ever like a serious consideration of just being a producer and not really ever singing? And
yeah, totally. I mean, when I started out, and this has been my musical journey has been so many things, because I went to school for trumpet. And that's why that kind of worked its way in. And that's how I found my way into everything. And then from there, I was, trying to be a trumpet player for producers. And then I was like, okay, why don't I just produce and then do trumpet on that? And producing was actually my plan was to get into like session horn player space by doing that. And then I ended up just finding out that I was more passionate about making the whole song than I was playing trumpet. And then that same kind of progression happened with singing, where it was like, okay, I like producing a lot and I like producing for other people, but I also really like taking the song from that middle point where the beat is done to it being a song that people want to like sing along to or sticks in people's heads, or because you can only do so much with the instrumental. And there's some people that do a lot with instrumentals, but I think that the way that I produce and make music, the vocal definitely serves it. And it's just become tied with my process.
But as someone who hasn't really been singing for that long, as you mentioned yourself, like how do you assess how good of a singer you are? Like, how is that just something that you listen to and you're like, I think that's dope, I'm gonna put that out? Or do you rely on a lot of other people, or is it just like a feeling?
I mean, I have a really strong like community of creatives around me in New York. Like we call ourselves Supernova. We have for a while. But it's like all just my homies, and it's partially, I have enough musical training to be like, this is good. I like this. I personally like how my voice sounds on this. Does everybody gonna like it? No. But I hope that I'm like, I feel like it's good enough, and I can tell that it's good enough, and I know when it's good enough. But at the same time, like, there's that thing where you can't really put too much stock in everybody else's opinion, and you just kind of have to say, I like what I'm doing, and I feel like what I'm doing suits me right now, so I'm going to keep doing that. And I think that really actually, if you are going through my music, I think it does show, because I will, from song to song, I don't sing the same way. Like, I don't sing the same way on, I have this track called Kyoto, I don't sing the same way on that one as I do on Mountains, and I don't sing the same way on Mountains as I do on PDA or Set It Off. Like, I can change my voice because I think of it more like a part of the production.
Come on, love, you know I get anxious with you, keep checking the time. My love, do you know I've been feeding you lies? You got it, kinda in the middle of my things. Your love doesn't do it for me. Caught up and I'm sorry indeed. Something out there caught it for me. Set me up. It's every time that I hear the call. Sorry, I'm just standing on business. Don't know if we're done, but I gotta go. I know it's hard. You tell me so. Together we could.
This was a snippet of B's song, Set It Off. And now back to the interview. I mean, as I mentioned, you put out a bunch of instrumentals, a bunch of beats, and eventually, you add your voice to it. Yeah, and then your first project comes out. I mean, I think you had I forgot the name of your first EP that came out before Listen.
The Spring Summer 23-24.
Spring Summer 23-24. Talk to me about the creation of these first bigger projects, let's say, when you decide to put out an EP. And
I think, well, that one specifically is really interesting because I made that entire, like Spring Summer, I made that entire thing in like a day, in like 2 days. I was like, I'm in New York, obviously, so Fashion Week is like a thing that you can just go outside and like, you can't go to the shows for free, but you can just be outside in like Soho, and there's so many things going on for that. So, we like to make a day of it and, get really dressed up in our own way and just kind of go outside and, try and get the like man on the street interviewers to come up to us and be like, what are you wearing? What are you wearing? What are you wearing? And I feel like I kind of put that shit on that day, and like I got some attention from some of those people, and I had a mask on, so like nobody knew it was me, and like good luck finding it. But yeah, I just felt like I came home and I was like, I feel like really good right now, and I was just like, I'm gonna just bust out a couple of songs. And I think that really, like, I was already working on Listen when I did that. I was just like, this is what I am feeling today. I'm feeling like manic right now. I just need to get all this off my chest. And so I like locked in the studio for like 8 hours ish and literally recorded all that. I was like, I'm not going to mix it. Like, I'm just going to drop it as is. And I feel like sometimes I just have to do that with myself because I'll sit on stuff and I'll like think about it a lot. And so I feel like that just was to kind of solidify that moment in time for me, but also kind of get the ball rolling on my larger stuff that I wanted to work on. And I feel like that was the first time that I really got to play with the transitions in each song. And that was actually the thing, is I wanted it to be one long, like 15-minute song. And I was like, that's stupid. Why would I do that? And so, yeah, I actually recorded all that in one project file and then split it up into 4 things.
But with the goal to release it immediately, right? Like without any additional crazy promotional strategies, just like putting it out there. And when you say you want to prevent like sitting on stuff, like why do you sit on stuff?
Sometimes things just don't, like, it's not the right time for it. Like I have a lot of songs that I'm just like, these are not, they don't fit in this sonic profile of what I want to do right now. 'Cause obviously what I'm working on right now is more upbeat. It's more, the themes are more, I wouldn't say I don't write like sad music, but I wouldn't say like the themes right now are more like, hey, get up, let's dance, like type stuff. And I feel like the stuff that kind of tackles basically like if I have something that's going to be really diving into how I'm feeling, I want that to all live in the same place together. I try most of the time to write kind of from a fictional place, like I make these stories up and that's how the lyrics come across. But you know, there's some songs that I feel like are really personal, or there's some songs that tell stories that I feel like are a little bit more they're just like heavier, you know, or there's just stuff that doesn't fit sound wise. And so those will all get kind of pushed off to the sideline, and I'll come back to them when it's time to come back to them.
I like the storytelling aspects behind Set It Off, you know, this idea of letting something go to pursue a passion. I was wondering with regards to that, like, you know, with all the things that you've done in the past, you know, you played, you know, you still are a trumpet player. I think you had the chance to be a member of the Honor Band of America as well at some point. So many different trajectories, so many different decisions to make. What is something in hindsight now that you feel like you gave up in order to pursue your dream as an artist?
I mean, like when I was in middle school, I literally decided, I was like, I want to go be in the Chicago Philharmonic Orchestra playing trumpet. And I like knew from like then on, because I had a really good middle school like band program and teacher. And I felt really encouraged by the people around me. And I was like, this is what I want to do. There's no leeway in that. And I kept that line of thinking kind of took me all the way to the like junior year of my college degree. And then from there, I was kind of like, I don't know if this is really what I want to do so much, partially because I am seeing the people around me, like, and I just think that there's people that shine in everything. And I think it's also really important to like step back and be like, okay, this is not my place to shine. And maybe I'd be better served doing something else or contributing in a different way. And originally I thought that was going to be playing in like Broadway pit orchestras. And that's why I moved out to New York. It's because I was trying to pursue that. And then, you know, the more I learned about that and kind of was getting into that, I was like, this isn't for me. And I had the production thing kind of in my back pocket when I came to New York, because it was just like something I was doing for fun. And then, yeah, that just kind of, I met a bunch of people and they encouraged me in similar ways. And I feel like that's really pushed me into where I am now, which I feel like is, I'm doing a thing that I feel like I shine at, you know?
Mm-hmm. And this whole idea of you doing this as a hobby, then, you know, I find it always interesting to hear about that switch, you know, because at some point it wasn't a hobby anymore, right? You pursued it professionally. What does it take for like someone, what makes the difference between pursuing something as a hobby and then deciding to do this on a professional level and really be an artist?
Yeah, I think there's a piece of, I don't want to call it advice, but my old trumpet teacher used to say this thing that like really always stuck with me, and it's like low-key a little toxic, but he's like, you can like drop everything and like, he's like, a safety net will get you nowhere. Like you have to dive headfirst and just have like this fanatical devotion and know that you're going to succeed at whatever you choose to do. And then the toxic part of that is that he would follow it up and be like, if you don't want to do that, they're always hiring greeters at Walmart. And I'm like, okay. Like, I was like, that's a little dire. But like, I think I carry that with me for better or for worse. And I will say that is kind of how I think. Like, I don't give myself a second option in anything I do. Like, it's always, it's that or it's nothing else. And, you know, I'm just fortunate enough and have found the right things so far that's worked out. I, you know, do everything I can in my power to get by, continuing to do that. Like I'm in my own studio that I rent with some friends, and we like engineer people. I take like small production clients, like, and that is really what's kind of supporting me on the side. And I'm also fortunate enough to have like a college degree in music, so I can teach elsewhere and like all that. So yeah, I don't know. I just like, I kind of.
So you got a bunch of safety nets in some way.
I mean, yes, but at the same time, I've kind of, they're all in the music space, you know.
Yeah, and you've built it
There's
yourself,
no,
you know.
right. There's no option but music. And like, I'm not going to be an engineer for the rest of my life. That's, again, I have a friend who's really good at that, and I think I'm good enough at it, but that's not, you know, where I'm meant to be.
Talking about this, you know, I don't want to call it fear, because you definitely don't seem to me like you have any fear that this dream of yours won't work out. But is that something that you carry with you a lot? This conscious thought of, what if this doesn't work out? Or is that something that in you being so creative and developing stuff every day, and that this thought doesn't really come up that much?
I mean, to me, it's kind of like almost a manifestation thing, but it's like, if you're creating with intention towards where you want to be, those things are going to find you. And that, like, that same advice I've heard from so many people, and it sounded like, you know, ridiculous to me when I used to work at Amazon, like during the lockdown. I was driving a truck, and like, you know, I was the coworker that made music, but like, I'm not the person that would show it to anybody. But like, yeah, it's just in the back of my brain. There's no part of me that ever tells myself that I'm not gonna succeed in what I want to do. It's more of like an anxiety of like, am I doing enough right now? Or what more do I have to do right now?
Do you feel like you're doing enough?
I mean, the real answer is no, I don't ever feel like I'm doing enough. But like, if I step back and look at it like reasonably, yeah, I feel like I'm doing a lot right now. And I feel like I'm actually at a pretty good place where there's like kind of a balance that I've found. And that balance is always kind of fluctuating because just of the nature of music and like the business side of music. But like I said, I've been fortunate to kind of come into some work that's like holding me over for now.
When it comes to your career, you know, just because you've been alluding to the, you know, also the everything that you've built. I mean, you've built a career for yourself, an incredible career as a musician with some incredible music that you put out and you share with the world, and a loyal fan base that you already have. How would you describe the successes that you've managed to you know, collect over the years? Like, what are things that you look back on where you're like, this has been a big milestone for me and I've achieved that?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest one to me is this space that I'm in right now. I hit up 3 people that I was semi-close with at the time, and was just like, hey, what if we went 4 ways on renting a space where we could all just record and like build our own studio so we're not paying for studio time? Or, you know, we used to go to this free studio in Midtown called Quadio, and it shut down. And I was also fortunate enough to like be able to talk with the guy that was in charge of it, and he handed off some of the gear to me. And so really this spot is just kind of like the like symbolic successor to that. Like it wouldn't be possible without that. So this space is definitely one of those big moments for me, even though like at that point I'm still working 2 jobs, like all that. And yeah, I mean, like in music, I don't feel like I made it, and I don't feel like, I mean, I don't know. I feel I'm living and I'm okay and I have what I need right now, and like I'm happy with where I'm at, but like there's so much more for me to do.
What would be a I made it moment in your opinion?
It's a good question. I don't think there's necessarily a moment that will ever come. I think it's more of a like, I think the I made it moments are when you're like looking back and you're like, oh, that was really cool. Or like I've recently been able to like even collaborate with some people that I really looked up to when I started. And like, even if those don't come out, like getting to send tracks back and forth with somebody who I was like, when I was learning, I was like, oh, this is like, I'll never be this good. And then now like I have their number and I'm texting them and like we're sending stuff back and forth. And it's like that to me isn't an I made it moment, but it's like something that I look at and I'm like, I'm really proud of where I'm at right now.
If you're calling on me every day, you're the way I get mad. 'Cause I don't have the time or the patience to kick back. It's not all fun and games in this business. Some feelings get hurt. So don't you come crying to me when you're left in the dirt.
This was a snippet of B's song Fun and Games. And now back to the interview. This whole thought about, you sometimes asking yourself the question, am I doing enough or not? Is there something concretely where you say this is something that me as in my position as an independent artist, I should do more of, or I need to get better at, or?
Yeah, I mean, I think for a long time, my biggest weakness had been, sharing stuff on like socials and all that. And I feel like that was a really, I wouldn't say scary transition for me, but like I am not a social media person. Like it's not something that I'm inherently good at. Yeah. And it's just like going from not posting at all to posting on 2 platforms every single day. And I've made like a little schedule for myself to make it more manageable. Yeah, I mean, like to me, that feels like that's always been my biggest weakness with stuff, and it's paid out dividends to like actually put some effort into it. I'm not gonna say I put thought into content because I really don't. I just put my phone down and film stuff. But yeah, like there's this artist named Justin, and he works upstairs in the same building that I'm in, and he like truly. The content format that I'm doing, he literally took, like, we were getting stuff at the bodega one day and he's like, you should try this. This is so easy for making content. And he's like, I feel like doesn't take a lot of effort. And he's like, here's like a template you can use. And I literally was just like, I'm going to take that. I'm going to try it out. And it almost immediately worked out. And I was like, oh, okay. So content is not this like big scary thing that you have to kind of, I think a lot of people think that you need to spend a lot of money or put a lot of effort into making a content. And there's a time and place for that. Obviously, like I'm a really big visual creative person as well. But I think that, every piece of content, everything you post on Reels and TikTok doesn't have to look incredible. It just needs to put what you're doing in front of 10 people or 20 people and, see what happens from there.
But so you do, this is something I hear from a lot of artists. So you do really feel the immediate effect of posting on a regular basis, right?
Yes and no. Because I mean, there was a time where I was posting regularly and like, there's nothing worse than when you're putting effort into making content or you feel like you're putting effort into making content and it's just like not doing anything. And I feel like the cross posting on both platforms has been good for that because like at least right now like my stuff is doing way better on Reels than it was doing on TikTok, and like something that does really well on Reels might not get any views at all or like no one likes it on TikTok, and I think that's ultimately because they're 2 different demographics on both of those apps, just like age wise. But yeah, like there's no worse feeling in the world than posting every day and then nobody's paying attention to you. No one's validating what you're doing. And I'm just really thankful for where I'm at right now, where people are like, wait, this is actually good. And I'm like, that's such a backhanded compliment.
Yeah.
But
And how does that, I mean, obviously you're building a brand as well, but then you also sometimes have releases that you want to promote. And we talked about it briefly about to me, like in my eyes as a consumer, to me, like your Listen EP was like the first big piece, the big project by B
Right.
that you shared with the world. And I'm wondering how did you approach the promotional strategy for something that you've never, it was if it was your first piece of you haven't really had proper experience with promoting an album. Like how do you do that? And now talking about your upcoming release, like what are things that you're going to do differently based on that release strategy that you've had?
Well, I'm also really fortunate to like I've said, I have this creative network of people that I've just met while I've lived here. And I think this city is such a beautiful place for that. But my romantic partner is a wonderful videographer and like director and photographer. And they're always like my creative sounding board. So there's that. I think it's a combination of, I take the train everywhere and there's so much downtime on the train that I personally I have a notebook that I carry with me and I try to like, to the best of my ability, like that's my planning period. Like I'll sit on the train, I'll be like, this is some lyrics I'm gonna finish up. Like I make a lot of sketches of art and stuff, and I do all the graphic design to myself. So like a lot of that visual identity has just again come from me experimenting and taking things that I like and taking things that have influenced me and trying to turn those into I'm not so much like actively trying to create a brand. I'm more just mirroring things that I like. And so people see that, and in a way that is a brand, because they can say, oh, this collection of things that they like kind of makes up my personality, because it makes up everybody's personality. But like even the graphics and stuff for my for Listen, really inspired by the Tommy Kane, Steve Madden campaign in the like 2000s. And I actually recently, he like DM'd me and my partner a really like sweet message.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I tagged him in something. I was like using my Tommy Kane influence, and he DM'd us, and we were trying to get him to help us out with the next cover for this upcoming thing. Which, just didn't work out for one reason or another. But even just having him say, like, this is cool that you're doing this. Like, I love what you're doing. Keep doing it. That's cool.
Amazing. Yeah, for sure.
But, I mean, I don't know. I guess my approach to building a brand or building how people view me or what people see me and think of is I'm just trying to show people what I like, and I'm making things that are reminiscent of things that I like. And on top of that, there's some like using the same color a lot, or like, the way that I dress, but I try to not put all too much thought into it, because at the end of the day, I want it to just be a reflection of me as an artist and as a person. So.
And does that apply also to a release, like to a release of a new album? Is that kind of, you put that out there and you kind of let it do its thing and you post a little bit about it on social media? Or how much thought do you put in the promotional strategies of your work, really, to make sure that it gets to the people?
That's always something that I'm working on. And I feel like that's always something that everybody's working on. And it's because I don't think music should be a hard sell, because it's like we're already doing so much work. Here it is, just listen to it. But, that's not how the world works. So I lost my train of thought. But
it's okay.
Like, it's just right. Like, I mean, as far as promo strategies go, it's just kind of like see what people resonate with and maybe not do more of that specific one thing, but kind of let that influence the direction that I'm pushing everything else in. Like, if there's a certain caption that does well, or like there's a certain like moment in a song that I hear people replaying a lot, that directs my ear to be like, okay, this is what's working for me right now. So I'm going to create with that in mind.
What do you take away from that that last release of yours for the next one? Like what learnings do you take away? What do you look back on that you want to do differently with the upcoming project that you're putting out?
I think that the biggest thing that I am trying to carry into everything else is like it has this kind of almost cinematic quality to it. Like I'm creating these songs with moments built into them that like catch people's attention. Kind of in the same way that like that beat cut in Mountains where I like in the second verse, the heaven's a place on earth and I think that I found it. Like that's intentional. Like that's my attention grab moment. And when I'm with my friends, I'm always like, this is the TikTok moment. But it's like, yeah, I think good music throughout all of time in history has those moments that define the song. And I think that with Listen, there's a couple of those, but that's been the biggest thing I'm trying to refine is like to give each song that characteristic moment. Cause like the whole song can be good, but realistically people are going to remember part of it, you know?
Something that I'm always interested in hearing is to hear about your current challenges. Like what is a challenge for you right now as an independent artist?
I think my biggest challenge and resource right now is just time. Like there's so many things that I feel like require my attention, or, you know, there's so many people that I want to get back to, or there's so many friendships that I want to like pay attention to and make time for, and just like relationships and stuff. And I just feel like, especially when you're doing a lot of it by yourself or with a small team, because realistically, I think it's so unrealistic to think that you can do any of this completely by yourself. You can. It'll drive you crazy. Don't try it. But yeah, just like time. I feel like I wish there was like 6 more hours in a day. That way, you know, like you can't be everywhere at once, and sometimes you need to be, but you know, it's just, even when I do my best to allocate time for certain things, you know, there's always going to be that one thing that falls through the crack. And it's just kind of about like figuring out what's important to you at that moment in time.
And would you say this reference to time is more related to more time for creativity or more time to spend with your loved ones? What is it that you would need more time for?
Well, it's interesting because I think that you can be creative no matter what you're doing. Like you can be spending time with your family and that can be your creative time, because every influence or every like experience you have outside of here where I'm at right now, where I record, always comes back in here. It always finds its way no matter when I come back. It might not be the day after it happened, but it's always going to find its way back into the art. It's always going to find its way back into the music. So it's never, there's like not enough creative time. Recording time is different because that takes like physical time that I have to be in a certain place to do something. And like, yeah, I feel like I have plenty of that just because of, I'm again blessed to have my own space that I only share with 3 people. And I feel like we make a really good split of that time. But yeah, right now I feel like the thing that I'm the most, I wouldn't say it's falling through the cracks, but like definitely I'm spending more time on the getting work done stuff and like close relationship stuff that I feel like a lot of my kind of friends on that, like not my immediate close friends, but I just feel like I haven't made as much time for my community and like for the creative people that like kind of surround me. And that definitely is like, I know that that's never permanent because it's like, as long as that space is in my brain and in my heart, like I'll make time for it. But also just, it's hard to find that time because sometimes when you can make time or by the time you get around to it, it's just too late. So yeah, I'm, trying to make that balance happen.
I mean, you saying that just makes me appreciate it even more that you're taking the time to do this, to have this conversation with me. So highly appreciate it.
Of course.
What's next for you? You talked about the project a little bit, but talk to me about the next couple of months and what you envision for yourself.
So I'm taking so right now we're finishing up the next 2 tracks. We're like literally almost done mixing them. And then after that, I'm going on a little work trip vacation to LA for a little bit. And that's kind of on the like kindling some creative connections and, you know, linking back up with people that I've met previously or that I've been talking to. And yeah, I try. That's another thing is like, I'm a very high anxiety, stress person. So I try to keep my schedule in order, but I try to not plan in advance or too far ahead, because if I do, that stuff looming over me really like clouds my brain and like doesn't let me kind of live in that present moment or like live inside of my body. I have to kind of live in that future that's coming. So really, I just try to take it day by day. And then, you know, if I have some stuff I got to get done, I'll put it in my calendar and then my phone will tell me. So.
Yeah. What do you do this all for?
I just do it because I love it. Like, I don't have a reason. That's it. It's been all I've ever done pretty much my whole life. Like I said, I knew from middle school that I was going to be a musician. I went to school for music. My whole life up to this point has been doing music in one form or another. And like, I just can't imagine a bee without a music tied into it in any type of way. So, you know, I do this because I love it. I do it because I have to. And on some like real, I do it because I have a degree in it and I can't get a job anywhere else. So this is my only option. But no, I mean, it's like, it's my favorite thing in the whole world. There's nothing I would, like, I think it'll always have such a front and center place in my life and what I do. So.
B, thank you so much for this incredible conversation. I really, really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Come on. All I wanna do is take your body up and down. All those diamonds on your neck, I got you finding now. A sun that jump, I got everybody stopping now. I just wanna make you smile and take you shopping now.
This was Unsigned Hype episode 33 with B. The track you're hearing right now is B's new single, Trendsetter. Make sure to support B by checking out their music and following them on social media. And for your weekly Unsigned Hype, make sure to subscribe to this podcast and follow us on all socials as well. All the links are in the show notes below.
What we're having for dinner and where we're going for pleasure, trendsetter. They always asking about what you're doing. Don't really face it, just keep it moving. Always concerned about who's your new favorite. You're special to me, so baby, don't change it. If you would ask me to keep it honest, I tell you I don't care if it's design. From the head to the pants to the shoes to the shows. It's so cool, they keep asking for the pictures of you and I in the papers. They want to know what we're having for dinner and where we're going for pleasure. Trendsetter, 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 trendsetter. Am I wrong? So want to spend it all on someone. Am I wrong? I want to throw it all away for you. Am I wrong? So want to spend it all on someone. Am I wrong? I want to throw it all away for you. Pictures of you and I in the papers. They want to know what we're having for dinner and where we're going for pleasure. Trendsetter, 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 trendsetter.